Here we are driving to the airport on a lovely Brisbane day. Today we're flying Air Canada all the way to Seattle. However, there's no direct flight between Australia and Seattle, so we have to connect somewhere. And today we're connecting through Vancouver. This one leg cost me $530, but the plane had a few issues. We'll get to those. But the best bit of the whole trip wasn't even on the plane, so stick around for that. So is one of the longest economy flights out there actually worth it? Let's find out. Brisbane to Vancouver is a long one. It's about 13 and a half hours. It's non-stop across the Pacific on Air Canada's Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Then about an hour and a half on the ground, and then a second little flight down to Seattle. Economy on a 787 is 3x3x3. I was in 40K, a window seat that was pretty far back, and being back there comes back to bite me a couple times later. Amenities wise, they have a blanket, a pillow, and they came through offering headphones. However, I was missing a blanket, but the cabin was pretty warm, so I didn't end up needing one, but typical economy, nothing fancy. The pitch is about 31 inches. With being 6'3", it feels pretty tight. For a long flight like this is fine, not roomy, but also not painful. The biggest problem that there was very little padding on the seat. You can feel the metal bar in the seat cushion. On a short flight you'd never notice, but on a 13-hour flight it makes it really hard to get comfortable. You have a USB port, the tray table, usual seat back pocket. Also, the plane was dirty. Not a little grubby, properly dirty, and I'll show you some of the worst. When you're about to spend 13 hours living in the seat, walking up to a mess like this really sets a tone. So the seat is okay for economy, but I just wish it would be cleaner. We pushed back on time. And there she goes. Bye, Australia. I'll see you again next time. The screen is a decent size, quick enough. The library has your usual mix of films, TVs, and a flight map. I always get obsessed with the flight map around hour 8, but this one had a nice little feature where you could just keep it on the corner of the screen. The Wi-Fi was a letdown. It didn't work at all over the Pacific Ocean, and only started working once we got to North America. So for the longest stretch, it was just nothing. But here's a fun little bit. There's a little shop built into the screen, and they were selling this Air Canada model plane on it. I just had to buy it. So let's go ahead and unbox it. Let's take a look at the box here. We have all of our stats about the plane. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. I was expecting it to be a bit bigger, and maybe you'd have to do some assembly, kind of like my DC-3 model here. We can put them side by side. Dinner is where the flight started to dip a bit. Because I was sitting so far back, this is where it kind of catches up for you. By the time they got to me, they ran out of one of the options, so there's only one meal left, which I'm pretty sure was Asian beef, but it's not like I had a choice anyways. And here it is. It wasn't very good. The beef was just very chewy, and it just didn't really taste fantastic. On a 13-hour flight, dinner is one of the few things you actually look forward to, and not having a choice really is a letdown. About halfway through the flight, they came through with little sandwiches that were actually tasted a lot better than the dinner. But the flight wasn't all bad. There was a self-service snack bar set up in the galley. They had, after the sandwich service, they had extras sitting on top of it. They had some waters and some other snacks. Being able to just grab something whenever you want is one of the nicer touches on this flight. But also don't forget to drink a lot of water. I generally stick to about 1 liter of water per 10 hours. I also went to the bathroom and the light was broken. So let's add it up. Dirty cabin, dinner that ran out, now the toilet with the dead light. This plane has seen better days. They served breakfast right before landing. I had the full Aussie breakfast, so it came with eggs, potatoes, sausage, and baked beans, and a piece of bread and some fruit. It was a lot better than the dinner. I'll just leave it at that. I also had a cup of coffee just to wake me up after the 13-hour flight. And then this. I've flown a lot, and this is honestly one of the best views I've ever had out of an airplane window. Mountains going on forever, the sun coming in low and gold across the wing. For all the little things wrong with this flight, I just sat here for a while and looked out the window. And that's where the seat comes back. I couldn't really sleep on this flight. There's just not enough padding to make it feel comfortable. And after a few hours of shifting around, I just kind of gave up. 13 hours awake in a seat you can't really get comfy in was a low point for the trip. And then Vancouver. Nice smooth landing into YVR. But this isn't the destination, it's just a connection. So that was the plane, but the reason this whole detour through Vancouver was worth it is something I can't really point a camera at. Vancouver has US pre-clearance, so I clear US customs and immigration right here in Canada before I even get on my flight to Seattle. So when I land in Seattle, I'm treated just like a domestic passenger and walk straight out. No needing to clear customs again. After 13 hours in the air, skipping that whole thing is fantastic. The only real catch is I have a pretty short connection here in Vancouver. Good thing customs wasn't very long and security wasn't very long either, so I was able to get right through in minutes. But for walking straight out on the other end, I would book this route again in a heartbeat. We just made it here to Vancouver from Brisbane. The flight was fine, the airplane was just dirty, and there was like a napkin stuck in the ceiling, the buttons for the windows were just filthy, the tray tables were just stained. I think that airplane could use a refurbish. We have a quick little flight down to Seattle here. Board's here in about 10 minutes, and it's about a 20-minute flight down to Seattle. And yeah, we'll see you there. This plane had zero legroom. If the flight was more than 25 minutes, I'd be so uncomfortable. Vancouver to Seattle is about 55 minutes gate to gate, but like I said back at the airport, it's about 20 minutes in the air. You're pretty much straight up and then coming straight down. Add up the travel time, it comes to about 15 hours and 30 minutes. 13:23 to Vancouver, an hour on the ground, and about 55 minutes down to Seattle. For $530 flying between Australia and Seattle, would I do it again? Probably, yeah. Even though the flight is so short, they still have time to go through the cabin, give out a little snack and some water. And because customs was already sorted in Vancouver, landing in Seattle is just walking off, no lines, and done. So was it worth it? Overall, I'm putting this flight at a 4, maybe a 5 out of 10. The plane felt tired, dirty cabin, broken bathroom light, a meal service that ran out before it even got to me. The seat was with very little padding. That's the stuff that drags it down. What saves it was the good part, clearing customs in Vancouver, the best view I've had out of the airplane window, and simply the fact there's no direct way to do this trip. If this video helped you plan your own trip, remember to like and subscribe.